Welcome to Sex, Love and Science with Laurie Muratori, clinical psychosexual therapist and relationship expert. This podcast explores sexuality, relationships, and the many facets in between, aiming to normalize sexual conversations, issues that we all face. Let's take the taboo out of sexuality and open up the conversations for a better sexual existence. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Today's episode, I'll be talking about what actually turns people on. Now, I've been requested and I got a lot of people who tell me they don't know what they like. I think there's a massive assumption that everybody's walking around knowing what their sexual turn-ons are, what their accelerators are. And I think it's fair to say that we all don't. And sometimes it's just a matter of trial and error. So today's episode's a little bit saucy, and we're going to talk about areas of the body that people like being touched. Now, if you don't like being touched here, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. So just prefacing it with that. I will start actually off saying that if you would like, I did write a free guide to touch, and I broke the body down into quarters. And what I did was I wrote down, I think there's a few hundred different examples of how to touch different parts of the body. If you'd like this free guide, please reach out to me. I'm happy to send that to you. This is my gift to you. Some of the information on there will be probably pretty boring. It could be a little bit outrageous, a little bit sassy, but it's really just to get people thinking about creative ways on how to touch and how to be touched. It's one of my favorite things to kind of talk about. It's not something we always get to in clinical settings. So here we are today. And so, yeah, please reach out via email if you would like that. The offer is there and it is free. Okay, I'm just going to start off with an example of what has been coined the term bondage. And I kind of like to tell people this is kind of like the Cirque du Soleil of bedroom antics, but it is bringing sensory and different things into touch, and it can also really help with edging. It's actually really fun to be the giver, and it's really fun to be the receiver. This isn't for every couple, but here is an idea, and this is what bondage would look like. So you could be blindfolded if you feel comfortable. You can be restrained to the bed if you feel comfortable. You also don't have to be, but you will be lying on the bed and starting on your back. So you are face up. Now, the person doing the touching, this is your cue to grab a lot of equipment. You don't need to actually go off and spend a fortune on this equipment either. I suggest looking for quirky things around your house. Some suggestions: a feather, a hairbrush, a spaghetti scooper, with the prongs. I don't know what you'd call it, but, one of those things. A silk stocking, a scarf, or a tie. If you have any bubble wrap, and any maybe really nice scented oils. If you feel comfortable with a little bit of heat, you can heat up some coconut oil. Do not boil it, please. Please, disclaimer there. Check to make sure it is not boiling before you put it on another human. You can use ice cubes. The possibilities are endless. Just walk around the house and think, "Ooh, that might feel good." So the person doing the touching is going to gather all of these supplies. Now, you're going to use all of these instruments, and you're going to be standing on the bed. You're going to be leaning over the bed. You're going to be kind of it's almost an acrobatic routine. It is quite exhausting, but it's fun. It's fun to see how your partner responds and to also communicate and also seek that consent. So you're going to want to make sure that everything that's all the tools and equipment the other person's okay with. And so, for example, you're going to grab a hairbrush. Maybe you're going to start running that down the outer side of your partner's legs. Maybe if they're comfortable with their feet being touched, you're going to use a harder pressure on the soles of the feet. Maybe you're going to take that hairbrush and run it along the rib cage. maybe around the chest. Then you might grab a silk scarf and you're going to kind of do little dipping motions, little dots all around their body. And you're going to do this in different parts of the body that are highly erogenous. And you're going to kind of like just dabble in all of these little tools and all of your partner's body to just kind of tease, explore, and see what you get a rise of. You'll see people's toes curl when you get a really good spot and pressure. You might see people squirm if something's a little bit too ticklish. So if you're not really great verbal communicators, you will be looking out for these bodily cues. I do, though, want to promote that verbal communication does go a long way. How's this feeling for you? Can I go harder? Are you enjoying that? Any spot that you like even more? That's as the person who's touching. As the receiver, you might say, oh my God, that's so hot right there. I'm loving that. Ooh, a little bit higher, and it'll feel really, really good. So using positives, not putting your partner off from touching you, and just promoting that really great, healthy, open communication. So I could talk about bondage for a while, but this is just one example of what a couple can do to start being a little bit more creative and thinking outside of the box. Worst case, you don't like some of it, and that's okay. You tried something new. Best case, you found out that you really love a silk scarf being really softly drawn out on your inner thighs and around your outer labia, and that just feels really hot, and maybe your partner starts doing that more often. Maybe you like ice cubes around the areola, and that is a part where you might just start bringing that into some more play. I'm not quite sure, but the more you can play, dabble, explore, feel safe, and consent to, I think that's a really good thing to start. So where do people actually like being touched? I'm going to start at the top of the head, and I'm going to work my way down for all intents and purposes of this episode. The neck. The neck is a very, very hot spot. It's fascinating because, without even saying that it's part of the erogenous zones, that I would say almost every woman who comes into my office, when I ask them what they like, they name the neck as probably, if they don't know anything about what they like, they know they like being kissed on their neck. So, and men do too. So this is not gender specific here. The neck is a really great place to be touched. Now, the nape of the neck could feel really amazing, and also along the sides. So the sides that would go from kind of the clavicle, and then up into almost to the back of the ear. So you can be doing a really nice lick. If you don't like licking, you might have little nibbles or soft kisses or even harder kisses, or even just a really nice stroke along the neck while you're maybe kissing another part of your partner's body. So I would focus on the neck, the sides, the back, and sometimes even the front. The front can be a bit ticklish for some people, but it could also be a turn on. Look, choking at the moment, I'm not even going to dive into, because that is just a minefield in itself. But I can talk about pressure play. Some people might be into that. That is okay. You also don't have to be expected to have anybody's hands on your throat. Just also disclaimer there. So again, not going into choking, but what I am saying is sometimes just feeling hands along the neck, or even just maybe holding the neck, can feel good and sexy and sensual. You also want to be doing that only if you are with a trusted partner, if there's high levels of communication and consent there. So again, be careful with that part of the body. The next part of the body I'm going to go to is the ears. The ears are highly sensitive. There are lots of nerves in the ears. Nibbling, some people love their earlobes nibbled. If that is you, you are not alone. I think that, go for it. Some people love putting tongues into ears. I guess, look, before I keep going, if you can think about it, somebody somewhere likes it. So let's just, we're not going to yuck anybody's yums. I'm just going with what things that people like. So the ears, again, super, super sensitive, and the ear lobes. Going a little bit farther down the body, I'm going to be looking at the chest. Now, for women, the breast usually don't get touched as often as they like, and this is just really from my clinical practice and what I hear. The breasts, sometimes women report that the partners just squeeze them or, tickle them or like really kind of just pinch the nipples, and they don't really embrace the entire breast itself. The breast can feel incredibly aroused from the very outside to kind of where near the armpit is to all the way getting closer to the nipple. So I suggest doing movements like figure eights around the breasts. So this is kind of doing a beautiful kind of tracing motion. And this is covering the entire breast and then doing figure eights and then getting a little bit closer to the nipple. And then closer again and closer again. So these figure eights are becoming smaller and smaller. Now, depending on time of the month, I guess, if you just had a child, et cetera, nipples can be quite hardy or very sensitive. Some people like clothespins on their nipple, and some people don't want their nipple being touched. So this is an area to kind of, I think, really talk about in the moment. Some people really like the higher the level of arousal, the more kind of pressure they might want being done to the nipple. Take that into consideration. If the nipple's off limits, that's also totally respectable. I kind of got a little bit too far myself. I want to go back to the armpit. Now, this is a weird spot that people don't think about that actually can feel really good, especially if you can get past armpits are smelly, sweaty, hairy, or ticklish. It is there are lots of nerves in there, and so you can tread very lightly. And if you're touching it nice and gentle, it can actually arouse your partner. So if your partner wants to touch your armpit, the thing you want to think about is, why am I hesitant on that happening? We're all humans. We're going to sweat. We're going to have hair. Does it really matter? I mean, if it feels good, and your partner's willing to give that a try, are you the only one preventing the pleasure from happening? So I will leave the armpit there and kind of leave that with you to think about. So I've done the head, the ears, the armpits, the chest. I'm going to go to the stomach. The stomach is very sensitive. I would say so many people who come into my office tell me they hate their stomach being touched. And usually, from what I hear, it's because people are so self-conscious about their stomachs. It's too big, it's bulging, it's fat, it's got cellulite, it's got, again, we're all humans. If it actually feels good, again, are you preventing something from happening? Could something actually feel really good that it might be worth giving a try? So the part from the belly button to the groin is incredibly sensitive. So for vulva owners, it feels incredibly nice to go from the belly button to the mons pubis. That's the part above the vagina there. It's where the hair is, for those who are not anatomically familiar with the term mons pubis. And this is a really nice place to stroke. Some women even like pressure being put right above the clit. And if you were inserting a finger into the vaginal opening, sometimes that can feel really hot. So engaging in a little bit of pressure while inserting, if you do feel comfortable with that, of course, can be pretty hot. Actually on both bodies. I call it the V. I really don't know. I really can't remember the name of the body part it is, but it's the crease of the inner thigh. And licking that part of the body usually sends people into high levels of arousal. Now, if you do it too gentle, it can be incredibly ticklish, and too hard, and it just doesn't seem very sexy or sensual. I know it's like Goldilocks and then the 3 licks, but you need to get it just right. So licking that part of the crease feels really good, and you can make many toes curl licking that area. I'm going to, so obviously there's the genitals. Now, we know that every penis owner and every vulva owner is different. So, all right, let's look at penis owners for a moment. I would concentrate on the frenulum. That is usually generally reported as a nice place to be touched or licked. So, doing that gentle, doing that slow, doing that in lots of different ways could enhance arousal for the penis owner. For vulva owners, we know the clitoris is designed for pleasure. I mean, a part of the body that's just designed for pleasure should not be overlooked. Now, this is the other thing. Every clit is going to want it different. So we can look at figure 8s. We can look at pressure. We can look at flicking. We could look at licking. We could look at up and down, all around. I feel like I'm going to start singing a song here pretty soon. But know what way your clit likes to be touched, and then hopefully communicate this to the person who's going to do the touching. There is no harm in exploring lots of different motions. I think the statistic is most vulva owners report that they only really have 1 or 2 favorite ways of touching the clitoris that could lead to an orgasm. So there's nothing wrong with exploring different ways of doing that. Bringing vibrators into that mix is also another great way to change the sensations. I also don't want to look past the labia majora and the outer labia. So there is some beautiful spots in there that have high sensitivity and beautiful nerves to be touched. Sometimes pressure along those areas, again with the finger inside, is a really great way to be receiving. Yeah, not everybody likes it the same, so please keep this, it's general information. Kind of, all right, going back to both genders. The perineum, the space between the anus and either the penis or the vaginal opening is super highly sensitive. This would be a space to gently touch, to lick. A lot of people like the space being touched. So if you feel comfortable touching your partner there, you're probably going to get a good result. If we looked at, the anus, not everybody's into butt play. Some people are, and some people are into it and just embarrassed by it. I'm going to kind of go back to what I said about the armpits. We're all human. We all have, we all have bodily sensations, and so there's really nothing wrong with touching an area that feels really good. So yeah, maybe you have to kind of develop that area of comfort to be touched or licked, or do the licking or doing the touching, or you just keep that in your no-go zone. Fair enough. But I can't help but to mention that part of the body. Working my way still down the body, inner thighs, super, super, super hot, especially really close to the genitals. It's going to be super sensitive and super receptive to touch. Would you believe, though, kind of going along the legs as well, is that the thighs, if I make my way down, the feet are incredibly sensitive. A lot of people are ticklish, but the bottom of the feet feel really good. Now, some of you might cringe when I say this, but between the toes is another sensitive area. Not sure if you've ever been with somebody who just goes straight to licking in between your toes, but that's a thing. Some people are really not comfortable receiving it. Some people are really not comfortable giving it. But food for thought, are you willing to give between the toes a try? The inside of the ankle is also another one. It could stimulate just a bit of arousal, so don't leave that area out. I think I've missed a couple, so I'm going to kind of work my way back to the top of the body. I forgot the head. People love scalp massages, head massages, kind of like that kind of massaging, or even like those small tugs to the hair can be really hot. Even brushing your partner's hair. I know that sounds a little bit strange for some people, but some people really, really enjoy that. I also missed just the beautiful lips on our faces. Some people really love kissing. And if you can find a good kisser, then that's probably a really, really good place to start. The other thing I forgot was the hands. How did I forget that? Now, touching hands, our hands do the touching, right? So we are concentrating on touching the other person with our hands, but often we don't think about having our hands being touched. So the palm of the hand, especially from a very ticklish perspective, can turn some people on. And so could the creases in the arm and behind the knee, which not everybody really think about. So again, ticklish for some, pretty hot for others. I think I've hit each part of the body that I wanted off the top of my head. Hopefully this is kind of giving you some ideas on where to be touched and where to do the touching on your partner. Hopefully today we've covered some new ways to explore the body and to maybe figure out what you like. Now, these are just general zones. I kind of feel like I sound like Cleo magazine or one of those magazines at the moment. But if you do Google and look at erogenous zones, there is a lot of information out there. And you want to talk to your partner and, again, ask them what they're willing to, do they have any no-go zones? So if the feet are off limits, don't try the tongue between the toes and the bottom of the feet. But if they're willing to give it a try and you guys end up laughing hysterically and pissing yourselves because it's just ridiculous and it seems a bit funny, then that's just adding a little bit of vitality, humor, and sense of adventure to your play, which is never a bad thing. So thank you for listening today. And again, reach out if you want my free guide to touch. Happy pleasuring.